Hi, welcome back to Helping Heather. I am going to share with you a health journey, my health journey. Not the full one, of course, in my life, but from age like 34 on here, I'm currently 48. I'll just quickly talk through it, but there's some important connections, especially if you're a woman. I think it's the shining. I guess whatever, we'll have to deal with it. Sorry if the shining in my eyes is bothering you. Just having a cup of tea. I hope it's hibiscus tea. I haven't tried it before. What kind of tea do you like? Get yourself a cup, make a pause, and sit and have a chat with me. I guess it's one way, but I would love to hear from you in the comments. Typically, my videos don't get a lot of views. I think it's because they're longer and my shorts do. So I want to share with those few of you that will take the time to look at this video. Perhaps it comes on a search and you're struggling with some of the health issues I've already gone through, and you need to make these same connections I have. Maybe you have more connections you've made and had some healing or some successes with treatments or different things that you've tried. Let's share together. Let's make this a community of sharing and help one another to get healthier, because the healthcare system, they're behind. Let's face it, they're behind, especially for women. So it's really something we have to take hold of for ourselves. And I wish that somebody would have told me that, and really impress that upon me to take hold of my health. And I'm thankful for my husband, who does a lot of research and has prompted me to do so. And rather than just trusting the medical system. I mean, I used to work on the ambulances to be an EMT, so I had some training there, but it's basically when you work on the ambulance, you just get trained on what kind of things will kill you, what's an emergency, and how to package people and bring them and keep them alive till you hand them over at the hospital. So none of the longevity or chronic health understanding and treatments or any of that, like tests and what you need in order to diagnose and effectively treat and manage illnesses. I never had that. But I guess I was primed to be able to understand a bit of the healthcare language and stuff. So that's always better than nothing. So I'm going to go back to 2011. And just so you know, there's a trigger warning here for unaliving. So if that's not something you can handle today, you might want to skip ahead a little bit, or just not continue watching this video. It'll just be for a few minutes here, so let I discuss that. So 2011 was a big year for our family. We moved out to our small town, and 2 weeks after we moved here, on the first day of school for everybody, I got word that my mom had taken her life. She'd unalived herself successfully, and it was very heartbreaking. I guess another trigger warning for anybody with toxic family relations. If that's not something you want to talk about or hear about, then also skip ahead. So this was especially painful and hard because we had been on kind of a low contact, almost no contact situation with my mom and dad and sister. Had some challenges ever since getting married in 2009, really, with dealing with them and understanding that there was a toxic family situation, and really it was impossible to navigate without their willingness to cooperate with us. And so my dad, actually, he was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. So that tells you something about the challenges a little bit. I don't know if my mom had anything like that. She suffered from depression postpartum after I was born, and I was not expected to live. I was an emergency C-section. The cord was wrapped around my neck. So very traumatic way of coming into the world. I'm sure that affected my mom horribly, and being in for 6 weeks in the NICU on an incubator really changed how she could mother, and I'm sure that affected her as well. So it kind of stuck with her whole life really after that. And learning about boundary setting and everything before getting married as a 28, 30-year-old, kind of around that area. I got to therapy in my early 20s, and had started church as well a little bit and kind of learned about that. So I was definitely working through how to be healthy, but not understanding that my dad was narcissistic. We didn't have that information at the time. So anyway, that's kind of that. So we had to set some boundaries, and we had moved to this small town. Hadn't really let them know because we were still just moving in and everything, and heard about my mom and her passing. And it was a very horrible time. My dad was not a very good person a lot of the times when he was dysregulated, challenged, or anything like that. So then this situation also, he blamed me for her death. He put that squarely on my shoulders on a phone call to me, and blocked me from being able to go to her funeral. And then told everybody that was at the funeral that I couldn't be bothered to attend. So a lot of my extended family wanted nothing to do with me. And when I got to be older, like before getting married and everything, moving from my parents' house into my own place, I kind of lost those connections of aunts, uncles, and grandparents too, because I kind of always relied on my mom or dad to, oh, we're going over for somebody's birthday or Christmas. And then when I was on my own, I was left out, and I realized no one was telling me when these things were happening. And I didn't have ways to contact these family members. But I was so busy. I was a single mom at the time, and working full time, and just, struggling. And so I didn't really have the time to go and kind of bridge that gap. And then I met my husband, and we were in the process of getting married and doing all that. So life was just very busy. I never really did make my own individual connections with the family members in any sort of meaningful way, but also they didn't reach out to me for that either. So it was very easy for my family, my mom, dad, sister, whoever, to share their side of the story of why we were not contacting very much. And I never did get anybody reaching out to me really to find out my side of the story. So then when my mom passed away, my dad's narrative about me being to blame and not bothering to go to the funeral was the narrative everybody accepted and they were comfortable with. So that effectively, after my mom died, I lost my entire family. And we had two girls, like my oldest, who I was with, a single mom, and then our daughter that we had, who was under 2, and we had just moved. And then, low-income student family, like those are all big, rapid-fire challenges, wounds, and having no support and living in a new place was just a really challenging time. All that to say, when you go through really traumatic events, and trauma is really defined as how you feel. So it doesn't have to be as extreme as what I'm talking about, but if you were really negatively affected by things, and betrayal trauma and rejection trauma is huge. So even if it's perceived by you, and it's devastating, right? So I was legitimately, realistically rejected and betrayed by my family. I had everybody turn their back on me. Grandparents, aunts, everybody. Uncles, cousins, parents and sister. Really, it was bad. It was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever gone through. And then losing my mom, that stands forever. There's no reconciliation. That is a hard thing to do. That is a hard thing to live through. And then there was more after that, being part of the church and having church members tell me, well, she's not in heaven now. Gross. That was really bad. And if you go to church and you believe in God and you have somebody around you that you're trying to speak life into, comfort, help them alleviate the grief, and they're grieving somebody who's passed away from unaliving themselves. Even if that's what you believe, you don't need to share that with the person. That's going to cause them more problems. And of course, I'm going to have to get to the end of that on my own. And figure out what I believe. And I have. And I do believe that God sees mental illness and brokenness in humanity and has mercy. So that's my belief. And I got there and heartfelt journey I had to take because somebody was so cruel to say that to me. So adding insult to injury really does describe that. It's a bad thing. Don't ever do that. I forgive the person who did that because they don't know what they did. They don't know what they said. And it's just so callous to not actually have an ability to have empathy for somebody going through that. Losing a mother to unaliving, if you haven't felt that, I mean, surely you can understand the pain that that person's going through, and not to, and that saying something like that would add to it, not make it better. So I just hope that gets across to anybody who's watching this video. And if you're watching it and you hear anybody starting to say, just stop them, because it's just so damaging and unnecessary. So anyway, carrying on. So having all those things happening, like you're in emergency mode, you're in crisis mode, and trying to live every day. And like for me, I was actually traumatized. I diagnosed with CPTSD, but not till, let's see, 3 years ago, 2023, I think, maybe 2022. So like 11, 12 years later, diagnosed with CPTSD. And I'm carrying on because it's, I took some time after we moved here. I couldn't work because I was just like, I don't know, traumatized, really. So what happened immediately is that I was no longer really fully in control of my brain, it seems. Comment if this has happened to you with trauma. So I would just be, sitting down to watch my daughter play, or about to make something for supper or lunch or something, or folding laundry, and my brain would be taken off to a memory of my childhood, or, various ones all the time. And I'd have to like shake out of it, and I'd be experiencing the emotion of that memory, and then the realization of my mom being gone and all that. And I would just be distraught. It was just a horrible time. So please be affirmed. If you're experiencing that, you need to understand that you probably have trauma. And CPTSD is complex PTSD, which isn't necessarily one event that caused trauma, like in a veteran, or like one really huge, horribly disturbing event like an abuse. It's a series of things, and how like it's multiple, it's layered. And so that's where I was diagnosed. Complex PTSD. It's traumas that have sat in your body and your brain, and it needs to be released. So you think that you can think through it, feel through it, and get it out. And you try over and over again, ruminating, overthinking, replaying things, trying to make sense of it. And it's not ever going to happen. It's stuck in your body and your brain until you need to move. And EMDR therapy in 2023, I'm going to say, could have been 2022, but 2023 for sure, is when I actually got some freedom from it. But when I was more active, like back in 2011, we moved here, and I'm going to say 2012, I started a day home in my house. And we had a basement suite that we had rented the whole house, and we decided to turn the basement suite into a day home. And there was a accredited day home agency in our little small town, so I was able to have an accredited registered day home, and that was awesome. So we had chickens and a really big garden and lots of veggies, lots of outside time, lots of moving around, moving, shaking. And my therapist in 2023, because I said, why is this coming back? It was gone for a while. Like, does it just come and go? And she says, well, you were moving a lot more back then. You're doing a desk job now, and so it's creeping up, and it's just ebb and flow. So you might think that you've done EMDR therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy and settled your trauma, but it's going to come back up and down. It's something you need to monitor and move accordingly. And moving your body, and this EMDR therapy where you're just watching, it's a process. So it's not just watching something following with your eyes. it really, really, really helped me to feel better. Like, and the EMDR therapy doesn't make you think or feel through everything. You don't have to talk through your whole trauma or all that. It's really good. So the therapists are usually very good at being, oh, and how does that make you feel, 1 to 10? And then they go, okay, hold that in your body for a second. And then it's like with present day things, because how you're going to behave or act when you have CPTSD is you're going to feel like, oh, wow, that was a really big emotional response I had to something that wasn't necessarily deserving of that. It's because you're feeling extra emotion from the trauma of another thing from your history, making it bigger because it's stuck, if that makes sense. And that's laypersons. I'm not a therapist, right? So, so that's my experience of it being described poorly, but and bumping along here. So anyway, I did not have access to that kind of thing. No one had diagnosed me back then. Doing the day home or moving around or doing stuff, and I had all kinds of fresh vegetables. Now, I never grew up doing a lot of cooking. My mom didn't really teach me how to cook that much, and definitely didn't do any canning or gardening or anything like that. So when we got this rental place, it had a big lot for gardening that was already set up as a garden. And my husband, being a student, he's like, yeah, I'll grow. His mom had a big flower garden and his grandma had some vegetables and stuff. So he thought he could figure it out. And let me tell you, he did a good job. We got so much produce all the time. There was apple trees, and I learned how to make and can applesauce and jams and things like that. But it was a big learning curve. But I've sunk myself into all of that, and I do think that also helped. That's my dog. He's just getting under the covers. Anyway, I do think that helped. Like that learning and sinking myself into how do I make pickles? How do I preserve these carrots he's bringing in and all of that? And then also cooking with some of this stuff. Like we didn't eat beets very much, maybe once or twice a year. I'm going to buy a can of beets and just cook them up and as a side for dishes. But now you did 2 rows of beets. Don't ever do 2 rows of beets unless you're a beet lover. That was bad. I had to leave a whole row in the ground. I couldn't deal with it. And that was, yeah. Beet greens, I learned he doesn't like it. We had 2 rows of zucchini. Lots of zucchini bread that year. Yeah, so it was a big learning curve. That was a big part of our life for 4 months of the year that we can actually grow things, and then for 1 or 2 months of harvesting. So that's what we did. And during that time, so that's 2012 till about 2015, I still moved from pre-diabetes. Actually, 2016 is, I think, when I was diagnosed, but I moved from pre-diabetes to type 2 diabetes, full-blown diabetes, while we are gardening, eating more vegetables and whole grains and whole foods than ever before in my whole life. I had gestational diabetes with both my pregnancies. The first one I was not diagnosed or caught. The second one was caught really early, and my babies were big, 9-8 and 10-1. So I ended up having type 2 diabetes, even though we were eating very, very healthy. Very little sugar, and it was such a disappointing thing. And I didn't get diagnosed till I got 2015 is when I started my desk job as in administration. And our youngest was in grade 1, so I thought, well, let's just be done with this day home now. And there was another day home opening up, so I put in a word for all my families to go there, and that worked out really, really perfectly, actually. So I could take this desk job, which was going to be more money, and have me home with my daughter in the evenings and benefits and stuff. So I started, going to the dentist and the doctor, because I didn't really have benefits, and we were quite low income when I did the day home. Didn't make a lot of money, and really, really, busy. And my sleep was really poor. I had kids coming. I was a single mom at 5 a.m. Every day, and I just totally didn't really sleep. That's when my sleeping habits were really bad. I slept, but maybe I got a few hours a night I just was never rested, and my health was deteriorating in that sense. So, how old was I? I wrote my note down. In 2011, I was 34. So 2015, 38, and 2016, 39. Definitely could have been perimenopausal, probably was, and it wasn't caught. And trauma, this is a point. Trauma, CPTSD, and traumatic events can put a woman, and the stress of that can make you do early perimenopause. I believe that's what happened to me. I don't have any doctors who was journeying alongside me. The doctors I had, I told about my trauma. I cried in their office about the depression and anxiety I was feeling. I was immediately fearful of all my loved ones getting hurt or killed. So it was something I really had to deal with. Panic attacks and anxiety every time my daughters were out, like if my oldest daughter, who was in grade 6 or something, was with a friend, I'm like, I need to check in if she wasn't back on time. Like, I'm talking a minute or two. I knew that I needed help. And so I did seek out like a bit of therapy, but at the time, there was a lot available to me that was super helpful. I had already been through these panic attacks. And so the Serenity Prayer was one I found in therapy. I didn't realize it was for AA. That's not a struggle I had. But I did come across that prayer, and I started praying that again and trying to use those same techniques to rein it in. And, that's kind of that. I was really, really messed up with this. This was a hard time in my life. And I really felt so bad that that's my children's upbringing that was totally negatively impacted by their mom being taken out with this. I did my best, and I think they had some good times like we all do, and I had to let it go and project forgiveness onto myself and mercy and all of that, because that's what the hand we were dealt, and did the best we could. There's lots of funny memories we have and things, and so we carried on. And in 2015 I got the desk job. 2016 is when I was struggling with allergies. Never had allergies in my entire life. And for a year, I had been dealing with allergies and taking over-the-counter allergy meds and having a bit of vertigo, as well as asthma. I got diagnosed with adult onset asthma. I went to the mobile lung clinic, and, how upsetting that, I went there and I got in right away to the mobile lung clinic, and it comes to our small town, and I was able to get all the testing done, but then I couldn't get the results. So I made an appointment for my doctor because I didn't hear back for a couple weeks, and they say, okay, here's another tip for your health. If they say no news is good news after you get tests done of any kind and you don't hear back from them, absolutely not. You go to the doctor and you ask them to look up those results, and you have them face you and tell you the results, because so many things get missed. Cervical cancer gets missed. That's why we now get a letter as women, because we will die. And it's just ridiculous. So do not trust that no news is good news after you're having tests. You make a doctor's appointment, or you call the doctor's office and have the nurse read the results after every test you do. If you have access to, in Alberta, we have My Health, and you can log into your own chart. In fact, I get an email after every test when the test results are there, and I can see what it is. I will absolutely not ever trust that again. And hopefully I won't have to with this new system. It's kind of good. So, allergies, vertigo, adult onset asthma, type 2 diabetes, 2016. Yeah. I've been struggling with it. I'm pretty sure I'd been struggling with it for a while. So that was probably not all at once, but it all crept up. Guess what, folks? So 39 years old, you can just start perimenopause when you're 35. Okay? So if you're 35 or heading towards 35 and you're having any of sudden onset of allergies or any of that, that's a symptom, because histamine is created when your hormones go low and high, when they're all dysregulated. Histamine's created in your body. You think it's just allergies and allergic response. No. It is actually from all kinds of things. You can eat histamine-rich foods. Hey, let's do all this lovely keto food and meal prepping and all that. Guess what has the most histamines? Yogurt, fermented things, kimchi, All these things we're supposed to eat for gut health. Eggs do. All the cured meats have it. Pickles, everything. Anything with vinegar in it. Shellfish, all that stuff. All the stuff you're going to eat for keto, right? Cheeses, aged cheeses, anything aged. And then when you go and meal prep everything and you have it in the fridge for 3-4 days, each day that it's sitting there prepped in advance, it's adding more histamine. And you don't cook it out. It doesn't get cooked out. It doesn't. So, and then also how you cook. If you cook in high heat, like grilling or browning, getting that Maillard reaction on your food, that adds more histamine to it. Roasting, high heat, adds more histamine to it. So you got to think of histamine as a cup. It's a cup. Just like a stress is a cup. It's a cup. And so how full is it? Well, okay, let's say you have hormones are up and down, and that's causing like maybe a third of the cup is full of that. And now you're coming across some dust, or you're doing some dusting, another third. So now 2/3 of the cup is full. And you go and eat pickles and cheese, and you're trying to rein in your health by doing keto, eggs and bacon. And now you've just overflowed the cup, and you're having nose running and throat, earache, vertigo. Vertigo comes from having inflammation from extra histamine inside your ears, and then you get the vertigo. All that happens. And you're like, oh, great, I have allergies now. That's a new thing I have. No, you just have too high of a histamine. Not necessarily a histamine intolerance, though that can happen for some people. You want to look into that for yourself if you suspect that. But too much histamine from, in perimenopause and the food and the allergens you have, yeah, that's going to cause you to have vertigo, to have runny nose, and to feel like crap. And you're tired, you're unable to sleep because it creates cortisol. Your body's stressed out when there's too much histamine. So you get stress and cortisol and blood sugar's going high. It's just a complete mess. It's your whole system, your whole body is involved there, and all kinds of things happen. And your body can't really get histamine out very well. I think there's different nutrients or supplements you can take. I'd have to remember that. I don't have that on hand with me right now. I can do a different video on that. So anyway, having that, no one knows that. Okay. I just discovered that 2025. Okay. So that's back in 2016. And I'm just thinking, okay, so I got allergy pills, and that kind of helps a little bit. And then I got prescription allergy pills. Okay. I think it was a while, actually. It was a few years later before I got prescription. So I'm just popping the allergy pills all the time. It's minorly helping, not that much. Type 2 diabetes, they start me on metformin. It doesn't really do much. 2018 is about when my husband comes up with some research on keto, and that's where we started. And that's where the first time, so I'm on metformin, and I'm doing my A1C tests for years, several years, and it's just creeping up. And I'm still eating the healthy foods, but as you get more and more insulin resistance, hear me out. You're craving carbs a lot more. And that's because your body can't get that energy into its cells. So it's asking for more and more. And so you're trying for more. And so I had never really craved carbs the way that I did. I might have gotten, jonesing for some chips or some chocolate. Those are my weaknesses. But I also understand potassium and magnesium and dopamine and serotonin are all kind of at work there. So I've always loved potatoes and breads. Those are my favorite carbs as far as not sugar, but chocolate's going to be my favorite sugar one. And I'm a purist when it comes to that. So just milk or dark, no funny stuff in it. Yeah. So that's kind of what my weaknesses were. And I think that it's always related back to some nutrients deficiencies or serotonin and dopamine needs in my body. Dealing with anxiety. Yeah. You're depleting all these things, right? And you're hyped up for cortisol all the time. So anyway, we did the keto diet in 2018. I had the best and normal A1Cs for 6 months. 3-month tests came out 5.3 and 5.4, I believe. And then I went to the doctor, and he saw my cholesterol creeping up and freaked out and said I can't do keto anymore. And totally that took all the air out of my sails, all the air, popped the balloon, whatever you want to call it. I just was so deflated. And the thing is, I had so much energy when I did keto. and I got into the nutritional ketosis, and I went from having no energy, not unable to sleep, brain fog, just totally feeling awful, to from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. I think Tuesday and Thursday was boot camp. And then there was 2 other days for HIIT and aquajog. Like I did 5 days in a row, Monday through Friday, of high intensity exercise from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's the energy level. I went from being tired from a desk job and dragging my butt to that. So that was a win. I didn't lose weight. I lost inches in the waist. I did lose the initial 10, 15 pounds of water weight, but I didn't lose any weight in those times. But I wasn't monitoring my calories or anything either. And that would have come later, but the doctor completely he scared me into thinking I was going to have a heart attack. So I stopped and I went back to the dietitian, who told me about the ways of eating and then said I was doing great, that they're working with people who have to stop getting restaurant food all the time. And since I know how to cook, I'm doing fine. Well, thanks. So back to being on the metformin, doing the same way of eating and having my A1Cs creep up again. That's where I was at. They're talking about different medications to try and all of that. Meanwhile, I'm also having UTIs and kidney infections and bladder infections and all that stuff. And they're saying it's because your blood sugar's high. And if you just, diabetes would be under control if you could lose weight. And if you could, you would get less bowel infections, you could bring your blood sugar down. But I can't do keto. I'm doing fasting, and I'm getting on day 3 of fasting, my fasting blood sugar is finally normal and stuff like that. And I'm doing intermittent fasting and exercising, doing all the things. It's it would not rein in unless I was doing a ketogenic diet. And I had lost my gumption. So only had that experience for 6 months. And so I don't know if there's something blocking me in my brain for all these years that I'm really worried about it causing irreversible damage or death to me. But I seem to have a block of getting back into the ketosis and sticking to the diet enough to get there since then. And so I'm trying to work on that. Anyway, okay, we're past 2018 now. And of course, get into 2019 and then 2020 and the craziness of COVID and all of that and the stress of that. And I work in healthcare, so it was fun. Even though administration it was a challenge to navigate. So we were renting all this time, and we opted in December 2020, we found a house and we bought it, got pre-approved and saved up the down payment, did all the things and bought a house. And so on January 2nd, we had been in our house for maybe less than 2 weeks. And I go to take the dog out for a walk and slipped on the ice straight back. Got a concussion. And the bump was super big. I didn't get unconscious. So when I called 811, which is our health link where we can have access to RNs and have medical advice to know whether you should go into the doctor, said because I didn't go unconscious, I could manage this at home. So I didn't actually go in and see a doctor. And oh man, it was a bad concussion. And my short-term memory was affected and all kinds of things. But that's, that was my focus for a good year at least, was this brain injury. And I couldn't work full hours for at least 6 months of the year. I had some great sick time saved up, so that helped. But I couldn't do keto at that time. My brain was just eating up all the energy. So I needed to, I really felt it in my energy level and my thinking if I was hungry. So I couldn't focus to get a meal plan together. I'll tell you, I am so thankful that with that concussion, before that concussion we were moving, I wanted to make a Christmas dinner for a family. So in advance of moving into the place, I did the work of looking through all the kitchen pictures and getting an understanding of all the cupboards and where I wanted to put my various dishes, where the plates and all that stuff goes, where the pots and pans, where the bowls, where the baking supplies, all that, knives, forks, everything, how I would set it up. So because I did that work of really focusing and planning all of that and remembering all of that, and I was able to set my kitchen up very well. And then when I did fall and get the concussion, I was still able to mostly remember where things were. But making supper at night, I challenged myself. I'm like, after I had my first, I think, 3 days of rest in a dark room and all of that to rest my brain, I really, I'm like, I'm going to make supper. I'm home. Like I went to work for a few hours every day to start, 1 or 2 hours or 3 hours, and then home. And I made supper, and it took me 3 hours to make supper in the beginning. Just a basic meat, 2 veg, green kind of thing. And what it would be, it's the short-term memory. So, okay, I am going to make chicken, and all right, I need a glass pan, turn on the oven. What was I making again? Oh, chicken. Okay, I got to go down and get the chicken. So I go down to the downstairs fridge and then grab the chicken. Or I go downstairs and I forgot why I was going down there. Just depends. Maybe I grab the chicken, come back up. Okay, what was I doing? Oh yeah, I'm making the chicken, And you open a drawer to look for something, forget what's in there. Like, it was so bad. And it was very discouraging and frustrating and stuff. So that was my focus all of 2021 and into 2022. Like, I had a nurse practitioner instead of a doctor at that time, and we did some, he helped me with medication. That's the first time. That doctor is the first time that I learned for the vertigo, because I was getting vertigo with a concussion as well. There's a medication for vertigo. Okay, ladies, there is a medication and it helps vertigo. It's called beta histine. Okay, write that down. Beta histine. If you suffer from vertigo, you go to the doctor, you ask for that. I do not know why when you go to the doctor and say you have vertigo, because guess what? Vertigo is life-altering. You are definitely going to the doctor for that. I remember the first time I had vertigo out here, I was doing yoga with my girls and I fell over. I was dizzy. My husband was out of town with our only vehicle at the time. But even so, I wouldn't have risked driving to the doctor. I walked to the doctor to say, like, I'm spinning, like, what's going on, right? And they showed me this exercise where you lean back and you just turn. They said there's a little ball in there. That didn't work. Suffered for years. So by that time, 2021, let's call it, that's 10 years in this town with vertigo, and just told you have to suffer, and it just come up willy-nilly. You have no idea why it's happening. I learned that if it's not when I turn my head, but if I'm up and down, that's if I have allergies or inflammation, then I'm going to get that. So beta histine, this nurse practitioner, love him, he was great. He's like, yeah, well, why don't you have that? I'm like, because I've never heard there's a pill for vertigo. And he went and gave me the pill, and he says, you probably need a few days of it for it to build up to help you. And of course I did, because I was having vertigo all the time. So beta histine, again, why in the world do all the doctors, at this time, I have had probably 4 doctors living in this small town. And every time I get a new one, you have to go in and tell them all your history. So you tell them all about the things you're dealing with, and they don't ever seem to fix anything. They zone in on the diabetes because that's where they can make the most money off of you. Anyway, rant over on that. So concussion, he helped me with that. He is trying to help me with the sleep. I didn't actually take the pills he prescribed me for sleep. I probably should have. I was shy about it because I wanted to be vigilant to hear people at night and be available. But that's a over-functioning, hypervigilant way of being that I've learned is not the best. And I've trained my brain to be like that. So it's one of the problems I'm still dealing with sleep. I had a poor sleep last night. But anyway, carry on. So 2021, 2022, I felt like my brain was at the place where I could try doing low carb. We kind of got onto the carnivore diet, learning about that and following people. And Dr. Boz had some respect for a girl who had done keto and done a big weight loss journey and was now moving more into carnivore. So we thought, okay, there's something to this. following Laura Spath and Dr. Ken Berry and things like that, I thought, well, let's give it a try. So if keto made my blood sugars, my A1C 5.6 and 5.4, which A1C is just a 3-month average of your blood sugar. It's a pretty cool scientific way they can like take your red blood cell and somehow see what your average is. I don't know how that works, but it's pretty neat. And that's a blood test I do religiously now. So I did a carnivore diet for 3 months, kind of at the end of 2022, expecting to have really low blood sugar because it's 0 carbs, right? Like meat has 0 carbs. And I mean, other than seasoning, and I would have done mayo and dip if I wanted. I don't think I really needed that much dip, but maybe pork rinds and dip I would have had in that time, just depending what I was after. So, but mostly sticking to 1 or 2 meals a day. It was a very satisfying way of eating. We got half a cow in advance of that, and we had steaks and roasts and ground beef and different things like that. Yeah, it was great. We had eggs and bacon or eggs and sausage in the morning, and 1 or 2 kinds of meat at supper time, maybe pork bites and chicken thighs, or chicken wings and pork chops, or just a steak or burger patties, or, like that kind of thing. And we just did, or meatballs, that's what we kind of did. I felt great. Energy was there. I was actually losing weight. And every time I checked my blood sugars, they looked like they were okay. But I went and did my A1C. It was 9.4, the highest it's ever been. Higher than when I was eating straight sugar, like not all the time, but having it, right? Even every day having sugar. My A1C was only ever 8, and now this was 9.4. And I had that really smart nurse practitioner. He's like, yeah, we had gluconeogenesis. That makes sense. Makes perfect sense to me. You're eating too much protein in one bolus and your body turned it into sugar. So disheartened that I couldn't gain anything of merit there in a style of eating. I suppose I could have dialed in and eaten like 3 different meals of protein each day, but that eating to satiety of a large amount at once was kind of what kept me going. I like that, but my body didn't. So then I've tried to do low carb keto over the years, and I've kind of stuck to it for the most part, but not the rigid under 20 grams of carbohydrates. And I think it was actually 2023 that I just said, like, I know I must be in perimenopause. Like, okay, so 2016, I was 39. Okay. So 2017 is when I turned 40. 2018, 41, 2019, 42, 2020, 43, 2021 is 44, 2022 is 45, 2023 is 46. Like, the doctor should be talking about perimenopause. I guess Dr. Gilbert back in 2018 mentioned it because I was having a resurgence of my irritable bowel syndrome. I had that when I was in my teens, 20s. I had eaten a raw hamburger, taken a bite or two without noticing, at a Perkins restaurant. And I got home from that vacation. It was 2 days later, and I just started with horrible cramping, and yeah. And I had that continuous for days. And I went to the doctor with it, and they did some tests, and I kept having to go back and get help and go into specialists, and had all those awful tests, barium enemas, barium swallows, all that kind of stuff, just for them to say, well, we never caught whatever bacteria was in there. We're going to assume that it was E. coli from that circumstance that you talked about, and now you have IBS. And so for over a year, I had 20 bowel movements a day with horrible bowel spasms before each one. It wrecked me. And that was in my early 20s. That's kind of what led me to my own battle with, trigger warning, depression. Okay. And that's when my oldest was 2 years old. So anyway, finally going to another specialist back then, they told me to use Metamucil and give that a try. Lo and behold, it worked. I didn't question it, didn't ask why. I thought they were just kind of sloughing me off. And, here's an over-the-counter easy thing to try. It's been a year and a half since I've started all this, trying desperately to get some help. Also trying to, not be too much of a bother to the medical system that's supposed to help me, because I didn't know any better. And here it is, Metamucil stopped it. And so every time I started to get another bout, I'd start it. I'd have that. So then fast forward 2018, go to the doctor, because I'm having it happen again. And he's like, oh yeah, well, you're getting to that age. This is the only mention for perimenopause. You're getting to the age where your hormones are kind of going crazy. So I think what's happening is like you're getting the hormone signal from your uterus to cramp, and it's just putting out way more, and it's just moving into your bowels. That's normal. It's going to happen. That's what I got from them. That's the only time they talked about hormone changes, and not to give me a solution, just to say that he said, don't eat any pips and go on a FODMAP diet, he said. So I attempted to learn that diet to do that, but it was not successful. It didn't really help me, and really hard to manage. So then I remembered the Metamucil, and I started taking that, and it helped. And then doing the ketogenic diet, I also cleared that up right away. So that's the only mention in the whole time about hormones. So then I actively went to a doctor. I think this is nurse practitioner, maybe doctor number 6 out here, a female doctor, a little bit younger than me. And I said to her, like, I think I need to see a gynecologist. So I was dealing with, I noticed some changes. TMI. If you don't want to hear about female things, it's TMI. Then maybe fast forward or stop watching. I started having dryness, pain, more UTIs, more kidney infections, right to the kidney, not even a bladder infection, suddenly a kidney. And I'm dealing with side pain, nausea, vomiting, fever right away. And just what is going on? And I started getting this extra special treat of a sharp electric style pain right in the urethra, constant. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. I couldn't live with it. So going to the doctor, I cannot, going to the hospital, going to the doctor, getting the tests done, I need something. I'm getting on medication for UTIs all the time. And they're saying, oh, your blood sugars are high. That's why. I'm like, oh my gosh, ouch, I'm okay. No concussion. I end up with horrible UTIs all the time. Go to the doctor. I'm like, can I see a gyno? And I remember back in 2018, I'd asked to see a gyno because of this too. And they said they were putting in a referral, and I never got a call. I didn't follow up again. Changing doctors, using the locum, and having a nurse practitioner just made it so tedious to get anything like that done. So then I'm coming back to her and saying, okay, listen, can I get a gyno? And she did it right away. And I got into the gynecologist. And she's like, yeah, just without you even telling me any of your symptoms, you're in perimenopause. You're of the age you have to be. And I'm like, and she goes, no, I mean, the symptoms definitely are. And I was just distraught. This was, again, another thing missed. And so, but starting there, I'm like, okay, well, what's the plan? What do we do? She goes, first, you need this cream. Your blood sugars are high, but see what this cream does. So it's Premarin cream. It's a vaginal suppository. So she tells me to use 0.5 milligrams every couple days, and then you could take a little bit and put it on your urethra. And so did that, and she gave me progesterone. So the first hormone that we're going to have depleted is progesterone. And that might be at 35. And what that feels like and looks like is unable to tolerate stress, especially the week before you bleed, because that's when progesterone is supposed to come in, is the week before you bleed. And not being able to tolerate stress, poor sleep, anxiety, not being able to rest, just all of that. That's going to happen. Digestive issues, things like that. All kinds of stuff's going to happen. Well, yeah, of course, that's what was happening to me. So she started me on that. And then an estrogen patch. just to do it, because I was having night sweats and being too hot at night. And so so you can't sleep because of the progesterone. And then when you actually do, you're waking up hot. And so it's just awful. And if you can't sleep very well, your insulin resistance and your health, your mental health, all that, your mental state, your mental fog, all that is going to be worse, right? So sleep is important. So you end up with, so I ended up with that, went back, tried it. I love the progesterone, although it did make me groggy all day long. I was taking it orally. I started the Perimen cream right away. And I want to tell you, please take note. If you are 35 around, starting to have any sort of changes down here, because the estrogen receptors inside your vagina, in and around all your vagina, all the nerves, all the skin, all of that stuff is in need of estrogen. And if you're having low estrogen in your body, it's not going to make it to those places. And even having a patch, it's not going to make it to those places. The cream, you could, even if you have hormone cancers, you can still use the cream because it's not going anywhere but there. And it changes, low estrogen changes the physiology of your internal vagina, everything. And so if nerves, muscles, all that are adjusting, changing tissue, your bladder changes the position it's in, anything in there, your cervix, all that. Some women, they lose their labia. It's just gone. Disappears. It goes from being a lovely pink color to a gray color. That nerve pain, the electric shock thing in the urethra, is because the skin down there was exposing the nerve. And it was bothered from the infections I was getting. Because I was getting infections because the skin tissue was exposing areas that we're not used to, all the stuff that it is coming in contact with on a regular basis. Like, oh my goodness. So I want to tell you, I started that Perimen cream and I never got another UTI or kidney infection until I forgot to get their prescription refill in time. And then I got another one. I got another infection. But I was getting them every month, if not more soon, like just never clearing one for years. Years. It's painful. It's tedious. You're always on antibiotics. You're always worried. You're always drinking. You're always peeing. And it's even already worse with diabetes. So from 2023 to present, one infection when I backed off because I didn't get my prescription refilled enough. And my blood sugars, still 8. Last one was 8. One before that was 8.8. I have not reined them in any significant way to say that is the reason why my UTI stopped. So please get that. If you're of that age and you're having any feelings down there, start it up. Oh, again, did me poorly, all of these doctors, by missing that. And, the GP I was seeing that asked for referrals, no, you're not in perimenopause. 47 years old, 46 years old. Of course I am. Yes, I am. How could I not be? At least starting it. But no, I believe I started it back when I was 35, 34. And I think that I started early because of the trauma. And guess what? The histamine, the asthma, inflammation, extra of that, the diabetes, even moving into that, insulin resistance, that all came from early perimenopause. Kicked me into that. And that was all there. So could it have been prevented? Could that have been prevented? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. We'd have to see with somebody else because it's already happened to me. But how disappointing and upsetting, just very upsetting that was missed by our medical community. So anyway, I'm up on the estrogen patches. I'm doing the progesterone, and everything seems to be going okay. With the hormones, though, the approach, and this isn't something the gyno and the GP or anybody ever taught me. I learned this from researching myself. It's not like you take a pill and it's fixed. Okay? Hormone replacement therapy is all about bringing in balance, signaling your body that we're going to have these hormones consistently at the right time. So you need to give it 3 to 6 months of consistently changing your patches on time and doing your progesterone and doing all of that. And at the same time, you've got to bring in the balance with your cortisol and the other things, and trying to bring in sleep and health and signaling safety to your body so that there's not a lot of extra stresses all the time, and insulin, like all these other hormones need to be more balanced. So you got to work on bringing in balance into your world. It's not a quick fix. And so that's hard and challenging to do. I do have my task app that I remind myself to change my patch all the time. I got to stay on top of getting the prescriptions in time. So yeah, it's going okay, but my patches were actually falling off. So that was another trick. So I'm kind of starting all over again with trying to build that estrogen in me. I was free from night sweatsuits. Let me just pause for. Well, we have my daughter's visitors here, and my dog had to announce it, apparently. I know it's getting on to be an hour, but this is a story, and you can stop it, come back to it, finish watching, not watch it all. This is for me as well. So yeah, it's connecting all the dots of all these things that I thought were separate. Like, very overwhelming to think, okay, now I got allergies. How do I manage that? Okay, well, my oldest had allergies and asthma growing up, so we had specialists. So to me, Neo, stop it. No, you can't go see them. Come on up. Come here. No, sorry. Oh, he's excited. Yeah, so thinking you have all these separate things and trying to manage them all separately. So with the asthma and allergy specialist for my daughter, I knew, vacuuming regularly and bed sheets every week, and it's, being out of the area that was vacuumed for 1 hour if you don't have pets after vacuuming, or 3 hours if you do. And we had a dog, Neo. So adding that to my own spaces to kind of help with that. Environmental allergies. Not a lot you can do living in a small town surrounded by fields, different times of day, different times of the year. It's more allergy. Brushing and bathing the dog regularly. I don't know, just a lot of those extra things you're adding on for allergies. And then the asthma puffers, and understanding when you have a need for a puffer or not to prevent asthma, and just to look at, extra medications, being more mindful to try and manage those things. And then when you're gonna get a cold or something, how to manage that, sinus rinses and things like that. Just a lot of extra management. Never mind the diabetes, and trying to check blood sugars, do A1Cs, try different ways of eating, check your blood sugar 2 hours after eating different things. Knowing that sleep is something you need to deal with. Trying to focus on sleep without being stressful about it. Just really hard. Then, all the different kind of balls in the air you're trying to do. To know that they're all connected. They're all connected because of hormone changes was helpful. And the root cause of fixing the hormone issues could finally start to be something I focus on in 2023. Lo and behold, okay, so I had a CGM as well. I got a CGM in 2024 because I was noticing, like, even if I tried to get into keto or did some fasting, that my blood sugars were still high, even on day 3. I did a CGM because doctors weren't really believing that I was actually bringing my carbs down low enough. So I did a CGM, fasted for 3 days, the first 3 days of the CGM, and I was still 10 on day 3. So I had a specialist, a metabolic specialist at that particular time, made an appointment with her on the phone, talked to her, told her about what was going on. And the gynecologist also, and the gynecologist says, yes, definitely, you're going to lose weight with these hormones once we have them optimized for you. Your blood sugars are going to get better, all of that. I'm like, what? Really? And she says, oh yeah, definitely. That's the first time I'm getting told, like, the root cause of my blood sugars being high and unable to be controlled isn't, poor management on my part. it's to do with the hormones. So I talked to the metabolic specialist, and I had already been with her I'd advocated to get, referred to her in order to figure out how to do low carb, and eating and exercise to manage my blood sugars. Again, like, I'm 46, 45, trying to do this to get some help because I don't really have help from GP. They're talking about Ozempic. And I'm like, no. And so I talked to the metabolic specialist. I updated her what's happening with the UTIs. She's like, oh, and I said, the gynecologist said to me that if I optimize my hormones, my blood sugars are going to come down. She goes, oh, yeah, probably. So she has me eating fiber and optimizing protein, all that sort of stuff, not doing low carb. She didn't agree with keto or low carb, like lower carb, but more whole foods. So I had been doing that, and my blood sugars were still. And then she's like, well, what about Ozempic? Like, well, I don't really want to do that. It wrecks your gut. I have IBS. I don't want to do that. Life isn't worth it if I have those bowel spasms and they can't be controlled. It is bad. So she's like, okay, yeah, I don't think Ozempic. And I was like, well, keto, I can't do it. My blood sugars are high. She goes, yeah, your body likes to be in a fed state. I do the CGM, bring that. That's what she says to me. Your body likes to be in a fed state. So do I. But you can't really do that with your blood sugars being so high. I don't get it. So anyway, going back with the news on the gyno, she's like, oh yeah, just optimize your hormones and just continue on doing the things we talked about. And there we go. So I had been meeting with her on the phone for strategies and checking in with her for over a year. And then her practice, she was ending that part of her practice and just staying with her GP. And I was just like, well, she didn't really help me too much. I guess if I'm not eating keto, then I need to focus on having, 30 to 35 gram boluses of protein every day and focus on getting 35 grams of fiber. So that's the thing. The gyno said, oh, you got to get calcium. So drinking milk too. So if I'm not able to eat keto, for some reason I slip up and I eat more carbs than that will keep me in ketosis, then I'm mindful to add fiber, have regular protein, and some milk, so that at least I'm getting those nutrients in. That's kind of the deal I make with myself. If I'm able to do keto, I can't drink milk. That's too many carbs for me. Fiber is not going to be 35 grams. That's more than the 20 grams of carbs I have. So it'll be what it is. And yeah, protein, well, I'll keep it to fattier protein choices a few times a day, smattering, not one big bolus at once, because that does put out extra insulin for me, and that shuts off ketone production, which can be frustrating. So I've learned all this about myself on my own. I wanted to share with you. I wanted to share my journey so that you're not alone if you have all these struggles and stuff. And hormones for women are a real big thing, and it's important to figure out what works for you, to settle them down, to get them to be evened out and balanced. And it's a journey. It is not a one-time event and you do it today and then you screwed up for tomorrow and you can do it the next day. No, you got to regulate yourself. Today I'm going to do some smaller short videos because it's January 4th today, 2026, and Sunday. And I really did not stick to ketogenic foods even the last couple days. I got off course. I started out really good. So Friday is like the day that in the evening I worked and I ate some chicken strips with a dip and a Mars bar. That was after supper, and even an evening snack. I ate that stuff and it was put me way over carbs and even adding sugar in there. And it's just something I really wanted. I told myself if I still wanted it later, I'll have it again. I'll have it. So I allow myself to have it because I don't want to wrestle with my brain on that, because I've had, again, trigger warning, binge eating issues, and that sets me off if I really tell myself, no, you can't have that. So I don't know what that was about. I'd have to check to see. I feel like, because I'm not anywhere near the progesterone time, which is the time where you usually want more carbs, and it's the time where it's hard to say no to cravings and aversions because your body's hormone shift kind of asks for stuff. So I just want to see what I had that day, because I think I caught on to what. Okay, coffee, breakfast. Oh yeah, okay. So having the pork breakfast sausage and bacon only for breakfast doesn't seem to do very well for me. It feels like it's limited maybe. I mean, and also I'm having to figure out work, because my office job is very, very busy. We are on outbreak this week of that really bad flu that's going around. And though I'm in administration, I go where I'm needed help. And so it was a busy time running around doing things I don't normally do, so that I didn't have my regimented schedule of when I'm eating and all that. And then I was worn out at night, so I didn't totally prepare that. Like, I threw sausages in the oven and bacon to have that as a box, and ended up leaning into that just for breakfast. And I don't know if that signaled to my brain with the extra stress of the day that, oh God, you're on restriction. Like, I don't know. So I just noticed that the 2 days I just had that, it was hungrier. I mean, I think ovulation possibly was happening too, which I think I get hungrier then too. But I mean, I had, for lunch, I had 3 meals. I had and then coffee with cream is my normal thing. So canned salmon with deviled eggs, and that's the picture that I put on my post. My blood sugar at at lunch was 6.6. Odd to me, but maybe it's because of the stress of running around doing things. My body put out more sugar. That could be the whole culprit in the first place. My husband made dinner because I had to go to my second job, and he gave me sweet potatoes, which isn't on plan, but he didn't realize that. And out of respect for him, I ate a little bit of it, but I put it away into the fridge. And then I had like some more salad at supper, which wasn't my fave. And then it was also chicken breast. Okay, and then I went right to, so I let myself have it. The next day, so that was yesterday, I did a pretty good job for eating, but I only ate twice. On the weekends, I have a hard time having breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I get going on a lot of things, and I don't feel the hunger when I'm busy. So then at the end of the night, I was hungry, and I did that to myself. And I got meat cheese crackers. I got some crackers, and there was a couple of like tortilla chips that I had too. I reined it into like 6 crackers and 3-4 tortilla chips. So it wasn't completely unhinged, but I didn't even put it in my FitnessPal to track it. So I better do that, because that's my deal with myself. If I go off plan, I need to put everything in my FitnessPal so I can look at it and see. And then I can go back and go, okay, what happened that took me out? So yeah, now I made egg bites today. Did a video for that, and I had that for lunch. I've put them away in the fridge for me to take for breakfast. I had that for breakfast. There's still some salmon salad that I can finish off for lunch, which I'm probably going to go do right now, and check on those little teen girls that are in the house now. And then supper time, I'll be making pork chops, and I'm debating on what to put with it. Oh, I'm going to make spinach dip too. And I also have to get out to the store because I am going to need some more eggs for the hubby. There's Neo. Say hi. Say hi. No. What a silly boy. Yeah, so I need to get some more eggs and a couple things, and I want to get some more pork rinds, because one of my favorite things to lean into when doing keto is pork rinds and dip. And I don't need, like, one serving size of pork rinds is like 27 of them. Like, I think on the bacon puff pack or something, or 23. Like, I'm never eating that much. Like, they're too salty. It's too rich. So, I mean, I'm going to put some dip on it for each one. I probably eat like 2 to 4 tablespoons of dip with like 4 to 6 chips, and then I'm done and I'm good. And I feel satisfied. So I didn't really have that with me. I had gone through my supply, and I'm trying to, with the pantry challenge, not go to the store and buy too much, but I just put it down on my list. I think I do need to do that. So anyway, I'm just telling you all that. My health journey here now, my state currently now, I don't have any UTIs all the time. It's great. I've got a good rhythm for the hormone replacement therapy, the changes of the patch. From the 10th to the 25th of the month, I'm doing progesterone and then the cream regularly, and that's awesome. I started the Jardiance this year. Oh, that's part of my health journey. Yeah, I forgot. I got to a certain place here. So I had a new doctor, again, changing doctors. And he said, why don't you try Jardiance? Now, one of the things with Jardiance is it's going to possibly cause more UTIs. So if you have chronic UTIs, you're not able to have this. You're not eligible to have it. So clearing that up allowed me to try this new medication instead of Ozempic. And for a while there, I was like, well, I just want to see if the hormones settle things and then try keto again if I can do that, and fasting, and try and fix my diabetes that way. Because I feel like if I start Jardiance, the doctor's not going to know that it's the keto, and I'm not ever going to get off Jardiance. I mean, that makes rational sense. But honestly, after so many years of high blood sugar, I just needed a win. I just needed to do something with it. So I started the Jardiance. And if you don't know about that pill, again, layperson, I'm not a doctor here. What it was explained to me and what my experience is that if you have too much sugar in your blood, and I mean, I was getting it from cortisol. My body was outputting or making it or whatever. So I would be high even if I didn't eat. So I couldn't really bring it down because I was just stressing my body out with fasting and keto. So that's what was happening to me. So I thought if I got the hormones, the underlying stress would settle down, and then I could do keto and fasting again without my blood sugar stressing out. But then I was like, well, if I do the Jardiance, even if my own body works against myself to bring my blood sugar up, I'll just pee out the extra sugar. Because that's what it does, is makes you pee out the extra sugar. And it protects your heart and your kidneys. So I decided to give it a try. And I'm so glad I did. Really, I am. Because I was kind of off the rails and on the rails. Sometimes I full on sugar cake or something, whatever I wanted. Because I was like, well, my blood sugar's high no matter what. And I can't get into keto, can't do fasting. That's how I felt. I was like, whatever. So then now doing the Jardiance, my blood sugars are normal. So my fasting blood sugar in the morning would be like 16, and I'd be getting high blood sugars all the time for just having regular food. And it was very, very disheartening. It's like, oh, can't do anything about it. So now having the Jardiance, I have an 8, sometimes a 6 in the morning. I hadn't seen a normal 5 or under after 2 hours after eating in years, and I'm getting it, and it's perfect. So now, okay, also another added side effect or effect is, if you're just having high blood sugars all the time and you're used to it, no matter what you eat, it could be eating a sweet potato, could be eating quinoa, could be eating none of it, just veggies, and high blood sugar, you're just like, okay, well, whatever. Not that big of a deal. You're always peeing too much all the time. Well, with Jardiance, things settle down, and you don't have, the feedback loop of, oh, now you've had your high blood sugar, and then you're hungry again. You got to eat some more and keep going. You're craving the carbs, and now you're dry and you're drinking and you're just peeing all the time. Like that whole thing gets interrupted because you're peeing out your sugar. Your sugar's coming down, even if you're eating carbs and sugars. Okay. And so you just got to make sure you drink some water so you have stuff to pee. And so you're already drinking water because you're thirsty and doing all that because you're diabetes. And then now that signal's interrupted because your blood sugar's now normalized. Right? And so it's been perfect. But now it's like, okay, so I'm going around with normal blood sugars more often than not, which is amazing. So I ate a chocolate bar the other night. And now I'm facing it. I was like, okay, if I eat this chocolate bar, I'm going to be peeing. I have to be okay with that because, hey, if I'm choosing to eat this, there we go. So then last night, and I did, I will. You'll be up at 3, you'll be peeing. I mean, I was kind of doing that already anyway, but it settled down with the Jardiance when I'm doing lower carb. So now you really notice if you have a chocolate bar, or last night I had some crackers and chips, like honestly, 4 tortilla chips, maybe 5, and like maybe 6 Ritz crackers. And I think some of them were like little halves. So that's all I had. And I was like, okay, I got to make peace with I'm going to be big. And I sure did. And, yeah. So there's a cost to eating something that's going to bring your blood sugar up, which I didn't have really before, just, and then you actually have the end in sight where your sugar's coming down and you're good to start again. So yeah, that's the Jardiance. Now the thing with being on Jardiance is also ketoacidosis can happen when you're doing lower carbs. So as I get into, and I wonder if there's a barrier in my brain as I get into close to like being worried about that, especially with work being busy and I'm not having the time to pay attention to my body as much. But that's also self-abandoning, right? So I'm prioritizing other things when I should be putting in the baseline of looking after myself, and checking in on myself. So that's another goal and thing I need to work on for this next year, is setting that baseline of checking in with myself, no matter what is going on around me, because I'm so quick to self-abandon and jump into help, jump into sacrifice myself. It's like a go-to in the brain, and I need to interrupt that brain signal and care for myself. And that's building my own safety and building my own commitment to myself. Telling my own self, like, I'm going to look after you, don't you worry, so that I listen to the signals. So that is definitely something important to do. And having, 2 jobs and all of that's not really super conducive to it. So I believe I'm going to be letting go of the second job this year. That's definitely going to happen. The timing of that we shall see. And yeah, so for my health journey, this is all kind of up to date now. I am at 75 micrograms of estrogen patch. Max you can do is 100. 6 months will be March, reevaluating whether I want to go up more, and that'll be dictated by how's my sleep, how's my night sweats, how's my hot flashes. Those are the only criteria right now that doctors have and gynos have to determine whether or not you have a need for more estrogen. They do not check your hormones. They won't even give you treatment based on hormone therapy or hormone levels. My one doctor was leaving practice before this last doctor, and so I kind of tricked her and I said, okay, I'm going to the gyno next week. Do you think you can give me some lab work for hormones? And she says, I wouldn't normally do this because I don't know how to interpret them, but since you're going to go to the gyno, okay. And so she sent me for the lab work, and I was shocked at my levels. Now I don't have that with me right now, so I'm going to just fudge it just to give you the extremes. So let's say progesterone's got to be, and I mean, I did my lab work right at the time where my progesterone was supposed to be high. So the week before I bleed, because I track my cycle quite regularly. I mean, I don't have to anymore, but I was at that time. And here it is, right when I should be building progesterone. And this is totally wrong number, but let's say progesterone's got to be like 60. And mine was -1. Like, that's how extremely low. And so let's say estrogen at this time was supposed to be 200 and mine was 20. So it's very clear. Now, the reason they don't like to go off of your hormone levels from lab work is because they have, they change so quickly and they go up and down. So giving you meds for that. But that's kind of old news, and some of the new stuff that I'm following now is that should not be, and hormone replacement therapy in perimenopause is very, very beneficial, more heart protective, more bone protective, more brain protective if you take it now, earlier rather than later. So I'm glad I got on that train before we understood that. And I'm on that journey, but it is a journey. This is a good couple-year journey already, trying to get the right dose diagnosed, because you always have to start with one and then go 3 months, maybe 4 months, and then try again. It's a lot. There was a time there I thought 50 was doing good, so I waited a little bit longer, and then I got in and got on to 75. So, and they had me do 25. Yeah, it's a journey, so you got to be ready for that. and get in with the gynecologist and insist upon it. Say, I really need to be seen by somebody, because the GPs typically will not give you the hormone replacement therapy. Yeah. Anyway, so an hour and 20 minutes. This is new. Yes. Hour and 20 minutes is probably as long as I need to do for this story. We're still in it, so we'll see how this next year goes. And this next week, my focus is going to be on sleep, not necessarily reining in my carbs. I'm going to rein them in where I'm not eating carb-rich foods. I'm going to build my diet on the fats and proteins and above ground veg that are low carb naturally, and just go from there. Anyway, thanks for taking time to listen to my story. Got any of your own experiences, your own health journey, share below or let me know. Okay, thank you and take care.